Welcome to Daily Global Motivation, the channel where mindset, discipline, and ambition collide to forge extraordinary success.
Here you'll be challenged to reject excuses, comfort, and average thinking. Here we speak honestly about what it truly takes to rise above the noise,
Shatter limitations, and build a life defined by freedom, power, purpose, and complete control over your time.
If you refuse to settle for a small life and crave financial independence, respect, and self-mastery, understand this clearly. You didn't find this channel by accident, because deep down you know you were meant for more. Most people claim the rich are just lucky or well-connected, holding on to comforting lies about talent and timing. This allows them to avoid the uncomfortable truth that keeps millions trapped exactly where they are. The reality is that wealthy people live by a different set of simple but brutal rules that demand responsibility, discipline, patience, and sacrifice. Today, we reveal those rules, so subscribe to Daily Global Motivation and like this video. Stay until the end to hear the final rule that separates those who only talk about success from those who actually achieve it. To understand why wealth and success concentrate among a small minority, you must confront the mental habits that shape outcomes long before results appear. To escape repetition and frustration shared by the majority, you must confront the mental habits that shape outcomes long before results appear. Rule 1, rich people take full responsibility, knowing that blaming others or circumstances drains power and halts progress. If you observe rich people honestly, you see the real difference is their willingness to accept full responsibility for every outcome in life. They understand that the moment responsibility is shifted to parents, circumstances, society, or the past, personal power immediately disappears.
They refuse to waste mental energy explaining failure or unfair conditions, because explanations protect ego but quietly destroy growth.
This level of ownership removes excuses, and once excuses disappear, decisive action becomes unavoidable and momentum begins to form. They treat failure as information rather than identity, allowing faster adaptation while others remain stuck in blame and resentment. They expect resistance and setbacks, which keeps them calm, strategic, and composed instead of emotional and reactive. Over time, this responsibility reshapes identity, raises standards, attracts opportunity, and turns ordinary effort into extraordinary success. Rule 2, rich people value time over money, knowing lost time can never be recovered and quietly limits life's potential. Once responsibility is accepted, rich people become deeply aware of time as their most unforgiving and irreplaceable resource in daily life. They understand that money can be lost and regained repeatedly, but time, once spent, is permanently gone forever. Because of this awareness, they deliberately structure life around long-term impact rather than short-term comfort or temporary pleasure. They focus on leverage and compounding actions that grow over years instead of staying busy with meaningless activity. Distractions are eliminated without apology, deep focus is protected aggressively, and schedules are built for clarity and momentum. This long-term mindset allows patience when results are invisible, and emotions tempt quitting or impulsive decisions. They invest in learning, systems, and mentorship to compress time and avoid mistakes that quietly steal years. They act decisively when clarity appears, understanding that hesitation wastes time and slowly accumulates into regret. Over time, this disciplined relationship with time reshapes identity and quietly produces wealth and freedom. Rule 3 time. Rich people think long-term, knowing real wealth is built through patience, compounding, and early decisions. Rich people operate with a long time horizon, understanding that meaningful results require patience, delayed gratification, and early effort without recognition.
While others focus on immediate gains, rich people think in 5, 10, and 20-year terms, allowing that perspective to shape daily decisions.
This future focus protects them from emotional and impulsive choices because the long-term outcome matters more than the moment. They are willing to endure boredom, repetition, and slow progress, trusting that consistency compounded over time outperforms short bursts of intensity. Unlike those who seek immediate validation, rich people are comfortable building quietly, motivated internally rather than by applause. They view setbacks as temporary fluctuations, not failures, allowing calm adjustments instead of emotional retreat.
They understand compounding applies to skills, habits, relationships, and reputation, which is why they obsess over small daily improvements.
Ultimately, long-term thinking aligns their lives with future freedom, proving that wealth is built patiently, deliberately, and invisibly over time.
Rule 4. Rich people are obsessed with growth, knowing stagnation leads to decay, and only improvement keeps them ahead.
Rich people approach life knowing stagnation is dangerous, because in a constantly evolving world, standing still is the same as moving backward.
They commit to continuous growth regardless of income, status, or past success, understanding that progress must never stop.
They reject the idea that any milestone grants permission to relax, because comfort breeds complacency, and complacency destroys relevance.
This obsession with growth keeps them adaptable in changing environments, where rigid thinking quickly becomes obsolete. Adaptability protects long-term success, while those who stop growing eventually fall behind despite former dominance.
Unlike most people, rich individuals actively seek discomfort, knowing growth happens at the edge of competence, where ego is tested.
They place themselves among people who outperform them, because higher standards force faster learning and rapid improvement. Instead of defending current abilities, they focus relentlessly on expanding skills, knowledge, and execution capacity. They invest heavily in their minds through reading, mentorship, and observation, because income reflects value, not intention. They treat criticism as information, not insult, managing ego carefully while prioritizing learning over pride. Over time, growth becomes identity rather than strategy, keeping them hungry even when they are winning. This hunger fuels discipline. Discipline sustains growth, and growth continuously attracts opportunity while others plateau.
Rich people are comfortable with discomfort, because growth, expansion, and breakthroughs only exist beyond familiar limits. Rich people understand that comfort is not a reward but a trap, because predictable ease slowly kills growth and potential. They deliberately place themselves in uncertain and demanding situations, knowing breakthroughs require operating beyond familiar limits.
While most people design life to avoid stress, rich people accept stress as a necessary part of expansion and progress.
This willingness to endure discomfort reveals opportunities hidden behind fear, risk, and temporary instability. Repeated exposure to discomfort builds resilience over time, and resilience becomes a powerful competitive advantage.
Poor-minded individuals confuse discomfort with danger, treating fear and anxiety as signals to stop instead of grow. Rich people reinterpret discomfort as evidence of progress, training themselves to move forward despite uncertainty.
By expanding tolerance for uncertainty, they increase capacity, responsibility, and ultimately the level of reward they can carry. Discomfort forces them to confront weaknesses honestly, exposing gaps early so learning happens faster and failure costs less.
They also accept social discomfort, choosing independence of thought over approval, conformity, or emotional safety.
Over time, this relationship with discomfort reshapes identity, shifting decisions towards strength, freedom, and long-term confidence.
Once discomfort becomes familiar rather than feared, the final rule reveals itself as the quiet force that separates sustained success from temporary achievement.
Rule 6. Rich people build systems, not just effort, because motivation fades, but well-designed structures produce results consistently. Rich people understand that effort alone is unreliable, because motivation fluctuates and energy fades over time. For this reason, they focus on building systems that produce results regardless of mood, stress, or circumstance.
They design routines, structures, and processes that guide behavior automatically and reduce dependence on willpower. While others rely on bursts of inspiration, rich people rely on repeatable frameworks that function consistently. Consistency compounds faster than intensity, because intensity without structure burns out, while structure endures. Poor-minded individuals romanticize hard work and long hours, assuming effort automatically leads to success.
Rich people challenge this belief by seeking efficiency, leverage, and outcomes with less friction and waste.
They delegate low-impact tasks and automate wherever possible to preserve mental energy. That freed energy is reserved for high-impact decisions that shape direction, momentum, and long-term results. Systems also protect them from emotional inconsistency because structure dictates action instead of fleeting feelings. They apply systems to work, health,
learning, and relationships, knowing chaos in one area spreads to others.
Ultimately, systems allow rich people to scale beyond personal limits, replacing struggle with design and making success sustainable rather than temporary.
After systems are put in place and discipline no longer depends on emotion, a deeper shift occurs in how success is measured and pursued. Rule 7, rich people focus on value, not validation, because attention is temporary while usefulness creates lasting success. Rich people do not measure progress by applause or attention, because validation is temporary while value is permanent. While most people seek approval to feel confident, rich people build confidence through competence, skill, and results. They are willing to work in obscurity for long periods, building leverage quietly before visibility ever appears. Detachment from validation protects emotional stability, which leads to clearer thinking and better long-term decisions.
Poor-minded individuals depend on likes, praise, and reassurance, making progress dependent on forces they cannot control.
Rich people commit to value creation first, trusting that recognition may follow later or not at all. They focus on usefulness over popularity, understanding that attention without substance fades quickly. By delivering value consistently, they create demand that attracts opportunity without hype. This focus allows them to withstand criticism and praise alike without losing direction or discipline. They are comfortable being early, alone, or misunderstood, guided by conviction rather than consensus. At the deepest level, prioritizing value reshapes identity, freeing them from opinion dependence and enabling lasting influence and wealth. Rule 8, rich people control their environment because discipline becomes easier when surroundings support goals instead of sabotaging them. Rule 8, rich people control their environment because discipline becomes easier when surroundings support goals instead of sabotaging them. Rich people know willpower is limited, so they design environments that support productive behavior automatically rather than relying on constant self-control. They are intentional about where they spend time, who they interact with, and what they consume. Knowing environment shapes behavior before conscious choice. While others exhaust themselves resisting temptation, rich people remove friction and distractions early, preserving energy for focused execution. Poor-minded individuals underestimate environmental influence, believing motivation alone is enough, and repeatedly undermine their own discipline. Rich people instead surround themselves with higher standards and selective social input, allowing consistency to feel natural and sustainable. They also create environments that support learning and reflection, enabling better strategy and long-term thinking. By aligning surroundings with goals, they reduce reliance on willpower and build momentum that compounds into lasting dominance.
When you see these rules together, it becomes clear that success isn't luck or mystery, but the predictable result of how you think, decide, and live over time. Rich people take responsibility for control, value time for intention, think long-term for compounding,
Pursue growth to avoid decay, embrace discomfort for expansion, build systems for consistency, and design environments that support discipline. None of these rules work alone, because together they form an identity that shapes behavior long before motivation ever appears. This is why most people fail not from lack of desire, but from living by rules that quietly work against them every day. The moment you adopt these principles, you stop chasing success and begin building the foundation that makes it inevitable. You start thinking, moving, and choosing differently, understanding that the cost of staying the same is far greater than the discomfort of change. This path demands discipline, patience, and courage. But for those who commit, the reward is freedom, control, and self-respect.